Welcome back to Sea Glass Archaeology, everybody. It's a wonderfully mild winter afternoon and low tide is coming very shortly. There's a lot of pebbles down on my shoreline, so here we are right now. We're gonna go take a look and we're gonna see what we can find. And then after that, we're gonna take a little trip to Tiny Beach and then maybe another spot as well. The winds are starting to push all the water outwards with the low tide, so hopefully we have some great finds. I'm just happy to be out here and to be sharing another video, so let's go. I'm stepping onto the first spot where there's any pebbles, and this is a great sign. There's a nice well-aged piece of blue. There's a green one as well, and these are the first two additions to my collection today. There's a pop can right over here. We got the tab from a pop can. I guess if I save enough of these, I could be rich. A couple of little tinies. And right above, right over here, there's a roller, a marble, everybody. Take a look. It's just been forever since I found a marble that was really cool like this, everybody. That last one in that last video was a tiny little fragment. And I don't know, they're just not as abundant right now as they were a few years ago, but that's okay. I'll take this one very happily, and maybe there's gonna be many more to come. Let me see if I can get some nice color into it. You can see it's got some light blue, some green. It's considerably reduced in contrast to some of the marbles that I have found in the past. It's probably about like 12 to 14 millimeters, and it's got little pockets of air I can see in it. So I'm gonna try and get some photos and let you see better what this marble's beauty looks like. Check it out, everybody. I just found a great piece, and I'm not talking about this little green one right over here. You can see that it's a super well-aged piece of Depression era pink. It looks like it's got a little bit of a contour to it, so there's actually a chance that this would have been a handle from some sort of a serving container, a serving dish. Here, if I put it flat, maybe you can get a better idea for it now that I'm looking at it. So you can see that it's got this beautiful little contour to it on top of the fact that it's really well aged. So this is probably a handle from something that was made out of Depression era glassware. And I'm not sure if I have something at home that matches it, but I'm sure I can go on the internet and find something comparative and put it in the video right now. Okay, everybody, I hope you're ready for this next find. I am so glad that I stopped and I dug. It's a beautiful piece of what it looks like amberina glass, and it's pretty wild because it's perfectly aged. But there's one thing about this, is it's got a flat bottom. Now, I've encountered a lot of vase fillers in my time that had that flat bottom to it, but I've never seen any like this. And now that I'm looking at it, it actually almost has like a little bit of a sunburst to it. So let me turn the camera around. Let me get you a good little view of what this piece looks like in the sunlight. Okay, everyone, I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's a beautiful streak that runs right through the middle of it. And that kind of makes me think that this might not be a vase filler. Man, that's such a spectacular piece. I'm thinking about it as I was just taking those pictures, and it occurred to me that old antique red glass sometimes had cadmium in it. So maybe if we took this piece and we put it under a black light, it would actually give a little bit of fluorescence, and that would let us know for sure that this isn't a vase filler and it actually is an old antique piece of glass. I'm so glad that I found it. It's probably the prettiest thing that I've found all season. Coming home with me. Oh, I just love that sunburst. I can't believe my eyes, everybody. I just found another piece that looks just like a vase filler, but this one is not domed either. I actually am starting to believe that this one, it's got tiny little air pockets, little bubbles in it, that this could actually be an extremely well-aged piece of sea glass. It's probably about like 100, 110 years of age and not a vase filler. So it's looking like at the end of the video, I'm gonna have to find some vase fillers in my kids' marble collection and give a comparison so we can see the difference between the two. And then as I'm talking, a nice large piece of milk glass, which is kind of neat. It's the bottom of something maybe from a pond from the 1930s. So I've made it closer to the end of the beach, everybody, and lightning has just struck twice. I found my second marble of the day. This one's got a little bit of red, green, and blue in it. And I guess since I found two marbles, I should probably make a mention of how these marbles ended up on the shorelines. See, a lot of them entered here through storm sewers. See, sewer pipes that emptied out into the ocean. You can imagine that if one kid lost a collection of marbles every year, that would introduce thousands of marbles, and in a town of 10,000 people, that's very likely. Rubbish disposal was another method of how these marbles ended up on the beach, and slingshot ammunition is a viable option as well. I've been told by many seniors in my town when I moved here that they would shoot these out into the ocean. They would shoot them, unfortunately, at each other and at the birds, which is pretty crazy. But there's a healthy population of birds, so they're definitely thriving. And I do actually have a video that I put out a long time ago on marbles and how they're introduced into the ocean. So if you want to see me with short hair, feel free to check that video out. Although I'm never looking for subscriptions and I'm never looking for views, I just love enhancing the IQ level and the intelligence of all the beachcombers out there through some of my finds. So hopefully I can go make some more and share some more insight with you. So here I am where the high tide mark pushes in. So this is the best place to find flotsam. And I was talking before about how marbles end up on the ocean through storm sewers, and here's a perfect example of how storm sewers still empty out into the sea. So here's a razor, probably very modern, with plastic. So we've got a piece of electronical component, but it's missing all of the electronics. This piece right over here with the strange contour is actually a piece of glasses, but they're probably real cheap glasses. And this is the most peculiar piece out of all of them. This you may find if you live in an old coal mining area or any type of mining whatsoever, because this is a piece of conveyor belting that has been extremely worn down and all of the rubber is missing off of it. I find a lot of these, but it's very uncommon for me to find one that's just so perfectly aged, nice and squared off. But it's a great teaching tool. This one over here I could definitely do without. Here's another really unique find, everybody. At first I thought maybe this was the crown of an apothecary stopper and it's just missing the other half. But this little hexagonal shape on the other side tells me that without a doubt this is an old fuse, like a glass fuse. In areas where people use the ocean for discarding, it's actually quite surprising that these aren't found in more of a frequent abundancy. 1,000 houses that each had a breaker panel that was replaced, that could have had 12, 16, or even 24 glass fuses at a time. Now, if we multiply that by the dwellings, then consider that people threw everything into the ocean. I really should be finding these in such a greater frequency. I'm happy that I just found this one. So I'm up at the high tide mark right now, everybody, not far from where I found that razor and those pieces of the sunglasses. And without a doubt, this is my favorite find of the 2024 season. I know it doesn't look like much, but what I'm holding here is a fragment of whale bone. I actually believe that this is a piece of whale vertebrae because I found quite a few of them over the years. I found some that are a lot larger than this that now I can share with you in the video. So I stopped to pick up this beautiful rock, and then I noticed that there was a second one that almost looks like it's a dragon egg. It's just so beautiful. Metamorphic rocks are just out of this world, even though they're made on this world. And then this huge chunky piece of clear, it was right next to it, so it's coming home as well. Okay, everybody, so I've looked everywhere I can on this beach, and I'm so happy with all of the finds that we just made. It's gonna be time to take a trip over to Tiny Beach now, and then we're gonna go take a trip to Garbage Cove. There's been a lot of seaweed over there, but I'm really optimistic that it's gonna be exposed with this negative wind and this low tide as well. Here I am, everybody. I'm out on Tiny Beach, and it doesn't look like anybody's picked through all the pebbles yet, so hopefully I'm gonna go make some good finds. Now, I call it Tiny Beach because there's just billions upon trillions of these tiny little rocks where tiny sea glass integrates in it, and I use it all for my crafts. Coming down, I found this piece, which is really, really amazing. This is a wooden kitchen opening window for a lobster trap. Nowadays, the lobster traps, the little circles are made out of a plastic. And what happens is the lobsters enter the trap through this little hole, and then they can't find their ways out. Wooden ones are very rare, so I'm definitely going to take this one home with me. I'm going to hang it in my sea glass shanty, which is opening in just about 5 weeks. I'm so happy to be back out on Tiny Beach, everybody, preparing for my upcoming season. During the winter, I would come down here almost every day, and for a large portion of the winter, all of my tiny, tiny little rocks were covered with big, big boulders and pounding waves, and I wasn't able to get down here and amass the abundance of tinies that I need for my upcoming season. So I've got some news, everybody, that I need to share with you, and I'm not sure if I should start with the good news or the bad news. So let's start with the good news, okay? The good news is I was contacted by Bell TV, and they're doing a mini series on beachcombing and sea glassing, and they want to include me. I'm so excited because I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that they want to focus a full episode on my unique lifestyle as a professional beachcomber and how much I love sea glass and how it just connects all of us, no matter the language you speak or the shoreline you walk. It's just the love that we all share together. So I'm so excited for that. We're going to be filming in April. I believe we're going to be filming over multiple locations and on multiple days. So that's really exciting. Now, the sad news, unfortunately, is last year I told everyone that I'm going to be hosting my own Sea Glass Festival down at the Port of Sydney. And unfortunately, the general manager down at the port, he stepped down. and a lot of things have changed down at the port. Fortunately, I'm still going to be down there for the cruise ship season and every other day of the summer as well, meeting wonderful people who come and visit Cape Breton, and we're going to be sharing in that joy of sea glass. But the Port of Sydney have told me that they just don't see it in the cards for this upcoming summer. So hopefully I'm going to be able to make the most of the situation and find myself at a sea glass festival somewhere near you now that I can travel, but we're not sure what the schedule is going to look like. I'd really love to go to the United States and go to that big NASGA festival. That's been one that I've always dreamed about going to, although I don't believe they're called the NASGA anymore. So I gave the beach a really good ripping from one side to the other, and I've picked all the tinies that I can muster up, and now I want to go see what Scrap Cove looks like. But this is the find that I made that I wanted to share with you. It's not sea glass, but it's a mask. Absolutely, this is the type of thing that I would have played with when I was a kid. I believe that these toys were made in the late 80s and early 90s under the name Mask. I believe this particular mask was from the leader of the bad guys, and his name was Miles Mayhem. I'm gonna have to go on the internet to reference that to be sure. I had all of these toys, but when I moved out here in 2008, I found myself under extreme hardship financially, and I sold them all. If I remember correctly, I sold them all to Brazil, and the shipping was more money than I got for the toys. There were some great memories as a kid playing with them. They were little vehicles that transformed, and the masks themselves had special powers, and they all had a unique little power, kind of like Care Bears for boys. Look at all the spring water running off into the ocean. This is how bottles and sea glass enters the sea from old Scrap Coves. And I know it's loud, but as I'm going down, it's pretty dangerous. I'm pretty sure I can see a bottle. I'm not sure if it's intact. It's not intact, but it's a medicine bottle, probably about like 1900, 1910. Right over here, we've got a Javex bottle. So let's follow the trail down. It's a little quieter if I look on this side. See lots of green, some old plates, and it all washes its way into the ocean and becomes sea glass, unless I find the bottles first, everyone. But right now, this is extremely dangerous. Coming down here, it's slick as molasses. Whew, I'm gonna put the camera away for a moment. I call this place Scrap Cove because it's a nickname that my children and I gave to it, because you just find so much scrap and junk from the old dump site. Like right over here, there's a big old piece of aluminum. And then right next to it, we've got some tile. And you can just find an abundance of plastics and rubbers that wash up, and one piece at a time. I do my best to clean it up, but unfortunately it's a job that's way too big for one person to tackle. Take a look at this awesome find, everybody. Without a doubt, it's from a beer mug, or a stein if you will, but for me, I think it would make the perfect L in the word love. And of course, if it's one of my videos, I have to be sharing spark plugs with you, and we can see that there's not one, not two, but 3 spark plugs in the general vicinity. Okay everybody, this is exactly why I wanted to come down to Scrap Cove. It's right next to the old town dump, and that means that I can find some really great artifacts, big pieces of sea glass. I like to call it big game hunting. So take a look at this big piece that I just captured. It's absolutely massive. It's over 1 inch thick, about 1.5 inches across. Without a doubt, this is from an insulator, but it's not a Hemingway 42 insulator because it's a little bit more greenish turquoise, and it doesn't have the beads on the bottom. We can see it doesn't have the beading, and that was a trait that was added to later insulators, but it has the pinhole threading that's been around since the 1860s. I'm so glad that we came out here, everybody, because there's a lot of seaweed down there, and this is where I really wanted to go hunt. It was a little bit further that way that you can't see, but it's all covered. So I'm glad that we made this discovery, although I don't know, I still might go out there and risk it on the seaweed and see if I could just find something else, because I know this place holds for some awesome sea glass. Okay everybody, so here I am. I'm deep inside the armor rock, and I'm trying to make my way to where all the seaweed is because I just want to see what's out there. There's a lot of car parts, you can see right down there, but I just made a better discovery than an old car part. It's a tiny little white pearl type of a marble. It's super small in contrast to the other 2 that I found, and I don't remember the last time I had 3 marbles in a day. I'm going to put them all together right now, and we're going to do a little size comparison and a neat little photo shoot. And it just goes to show that you got to be persistent. I'm not sure if I'm going to find anything out there in the seaweed, but I'm going to go take a look because you really never know, and you got to leave no rocks unturned. So I made it past all the armor rock, and there's a lot more seaweed here than I originally anticipated. You can see the spring thaw. There's a lot of runoff coming off of the shorelines, and that creates for some mass erosion where rocks like that can easily come down. I still think this is one of the most beautiful places in the world to come visit, even though it's pretty dangerous. You can just see just the beautiful frozen ice in the shoreline. Unfortunately, the seaweed's making it smell like summer already, and we're still gonna go take a look and see if we can find something. Take a look, everybody. There's a beautifully aged piece right here. It's just aged to perfection. Got another piece. Oh, and then look right over here. There's another great piece. This thing's crazy. Oh my goodness, look at the color, the shape, and look at the, oh my gosh. So I definitely lost my words there for a minute, everybody. So take a look at this beautiful piece that I just recovered. I'm thinking that this might actually be the top of a Pyrex type of a dish, because I've seen some baking dishes, casserole dishes, that were in this color hue. It could have been off the top of a candy jar. And I don't think this is a drawer pull, because if you look at the bottom of it, it doesn't have the threading where a screw would have went in. It's got a lot of chips on it too, as I'm looking at it, and that's kind of wild because the pieces that I was just finding before that, they didn't have the chips in it. I'm thinking that maybe because it has an inconsistent shape to it, that's why it's so chippy, because it just kept catching, ooh, it's gonna have another chip in it now, everybody. It just kept catching all of the edges of the rocks, and it just couldn't assimilate properly into the surf. So maybe that's why it's just got all these rough marks on it. We also are not far from the old dump, so something like this could have washed out not too long ago, and it's just making its way onto the shoreline. I'm so happy that I found it. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to put it in with my stopper collection. Maybe I'm gonna have to go online. I'm gonna have to find a picture of something comparative so we can get a better imagination and a better idea of what this originated from. It's tough, everybody, because I know that there's some amazing finds waiting to be made amidst all of these rocks and this seaweed, but I can only get through the first couple of inches. It's just so deep and it's so thick all the way up to the shoreline, although it's that same rock that's been haunting me for years, and I don't want today to be the day that it finally falls and then I don't make it home. Here's another great piece. Like I said, I know that these rocks are just filled with sea glass, rich bearing material. And I know there's a lot of great artifacts out here, because I have found a lot of great artifacts out here. And I think that's a marble. No, it's not a marble. Oh, that's too bad. But I definitely know that this is still worth looking through. If you needed a shower, this is the place to come, everybody. Unfortunately, it's the only spot of the beach that's washing all the seaweed away, because as we continue, the rocks and the seaweed are all just mixed together, and there's a massive piece of green I can see hiding right over there. Beautiful, big, about 3/4 of an inch to an inch. I'm so happy I just made this next find, everybody, because I am so hungry from all this beachcombing. Take a look, it's a fragment of a stainless steel spoon. So I'm gonna take this home, I'm gonna make myself a big bowl of cornflakes, and we're gonna chow down. Take a look at this really unique find now, everybody. It's a piece that almost looks like it's tempered because it's squared off on the edges, but it's got this little white finish to it, which is like a flashing or an applied color labeling. And this is a neat little piece of aluminum. Sometimes I've seen pieces like this that come off of cars. It could be like a rim or a hubcap, sorry, and this is a little bit too thin for that. But this piece is pretty unique. It's definitely coming home with me. I'm not sure if this was some sort of a privacy window, but it's pretty darn cool. There's a lot of larger rocks on the shoreline, and that's what I like about it so much, is it's a great big trap for some beautiful nuggets and rare artifacts. Unfortunately, I make a living off of the tinies that I turn into art, so I don't spend as enough time out here as I'd like big game hunting and looking for these beautiful finds. But finding that big, beautiful piece of the insulator, it definitely makes me want to come out here again more often and more frequently. Okay, everybody, I already walked by this spot once, and now I'm just heading backwards to get off the shoreline, and I found this amazing marble. It's a nice bright blue. It's well aged as well. So I'm gonna have to take out the other 3 marbles. We're gonna put them on the spoon, and we're gonna have a little breakfast. It's wild, everybody. About 10 feet higher from where I found that nice bright blue marble, I was taking all those pictures. I just put my camera away and I found another one. This one is solid yellow and it's almost about the same size as that white one. So now I'm gonna have to dig back in my bag. Luckily, they're all still at the top. I'm gonna put all the marbles together and we're gonna take another marble collage. This is so awesome, everybody. This is really shaping up to be an amazing beachcombing day, and I'm so glad that I took the chance and I came out here and I'm exploring all these different beaches, and I'm making a wide variety of finds, everything from whale bones to marbles to that beautiful piece of turquoise insulator. I'm just so glad that this day materialized in a positive way. I'm so excited to be sharing these bone fragments with you, everybody, and it just kind of speaks to how I wish I was making videos long ago, because I've made some amazing finds over the last 15 years. So we've got that piece that I found on the shoreline, and now that I looked at it and I compared it to my other pieces, it really is unique. Here we go. We have one vertebrae, and then we have this vertebrae, and we can tell by the trabecular that when we match it up to the grain, that it's a perfect match to the circumference of this bone. Although I have found some much bigger fragments as well, and this matches to the same point. So before I recorded this video, I actually went online and I did a bit of research, and it seems that a whale can have typically about 56 vertebrae, and they really vary in size and shape. Some of them have fins as well. It's wild because when I used to ride my bike out to Glace Bay, there was somebody who had a whale vertebrae in their yard, and it was like 3 feet across. So out here, we mostly see pilot whales, but we get a large variety of species that visit the waters off of Cape Breton, including the largest, the blue whale, which can be 90 feet in length. So it's amazing to imagine that that fragment might have come from a big blue whale. And they wash up out here every year in different areas of the island. It's a very common occurrence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the camera around, and we're going to compare the trabecular over here to some other bones of other animals, and we're really going to see through the cross section how different it is. So this is one of my favorite bones that I've ever found, everybody. You can see that it's extremely well worn and bleached by the sun, and the butcher second guessed themselves on the initial cut and changed where they were doing it. It's a great teaching tool for the cross section, and you can get a good look at the spongy portion, or the trabecular as I keep calling it. And you can see that on the beef bone of the cow, the gaps are so much closer together in contrast to this whale bone. And just for kicks, I've got this jawbone from a moose that I found out in Surrey when I was doing the Sea Glass Festival, and you can see that the porousness does increase. It gets so much wider from the cow to the moose, but it's still nothing in contrast to that whale. I was actually able to come up with a wide variety of vase fillers, everybody. So this is art glass that you could buy at a craft store like a Michael's or even a dollar store. It's extremely inexpensive. Now, a few telltale signs of these are when you look on the bottom, you can actually see that the glass, it cools very quickly when it hits the cooling surface, and it creates these little swirly patterns. In lining up all the vase fillers and then getting a street view, we can see that my piece of sea glass is thicker than all of the other vase fillers, and that's a great indication that this is not something modern that was thrown into the sea. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put it under the black light and see if it has cadmium in it, and that was added to red glass to obtain a higher molten temperature a lot quicker. It's finally nighttime, everybody. I've been so excited for this moment, and I haven't checked it myself. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh, and the focus is blurry, so give me one moment. We'll take a look at that, everybody. It absolutely is fluorescing under the spectrum of a black light, and we can see that that sunburst swirl actually was an inconsistency in the batch of glass. When I flip it over, it is glowing so much more on the bottom than it was on the top, and that's really cool. I've got the other vase fillers over here, and this one on the far left is actually red, and it is not glowing at all. Well, everybody, I made it to the very, very edge of the beach, and there's nowhere farther that I can go without getting myself into some serious trouble, and it's hard to find sea glass and all this seaweed anyways. So thank you all so much for watching. It feels so good to be back out here on the shoreline, sharing my finds and connecting with kind-hearted beachcombers from around the world. Hopefully I'm back out on the shoreline real soon. I've been thinking about taking a trip out of town and going somewhere new, but as a new driver, everything's just a little bit scary to me. I gotta conquer those fears, get out there and see the world. Thanks for watching, everybody.